Behind closed doors at the commie jail, something happened that nobody expected. The man who taught millions how to be the pack leader with their dogs was sitting in a cold cell, facing cameras for the first time without his signature confident smile. When the footage started rolling, what we saw wasn't the calm, assertive energy he's famous for. This was raw, emotional, and completely different from anything we'd seen before. The dog whisperer reduced to this.
Cesar Milan is known to his millions of fans as the dog whisperer for his ability to tame the toughest canines.
And you guys, when I first saw this video circulating online, I couldn't believe it was real. Because how does someone go from helping families with their beloved pets to potentially facing serious time behind bars? But here's the thing, and I need to tell you this right now because the internet is absolutely losing its mind over this. There is no new footage of Cesar Milan in jail. None. Zero. It doesn't exist. What's actually happening is so much more complex and honestly way more interesting than some fake prison video that people are falling for left and right. So let me break this down for you because this whole situation is a perfect example of how the internet can completely twist someone's story. And honestly, Cesar's real story, the ups, the downs, the controversies, the comeback attempts, is actually way more dramatic than any fake jail footage could ever be. Let's start from the beginning, because if you only know Cesar Milan from those clips that go viral on TikTok, you're missing like 90% of his actual story. Cesar Felipe Milan Favela, yeah, that's his real name, crossed the border from Mexico to California when he was just 21 years old. And when I say he had nothing, I mean nothing. This man was sleeping under a freeway in San Diego for 2 months, couldn't speak English, and had absolutely no connections in this country. But somehow, this guy who started with literally nothing became one of the most recognizable faces on television.
Cesar Milan came along at exactly the right time in terms of television. It was really the dawn of reality.
The Dog Whisperer ran from 2004 to 2012, and honestly, it was everywhere. Like, you couldn't escape it. National Geographic was playing episodes constantly, and suddenly everyone was trying to be the pack leader with their golden retriever named Buddy. The show was huge. I'm talking 80-plus countries, millions of viewers, and Cesar became this international celebrity. He wrote best-selling books, had his own magazine, and built this whole empire around his calm, assertive energy philosophy. People were obsessed with him. Celebrity clients were flying him to their mansions to fix their dogs' behavior problems, and he was making serious money doing it. But here's where things get complicated, because success like that always comes with a price. And for Cesar, that price was scrutiny. Lots of it. The first time I really noticed people starting to question Cesar's methods was probably around 2010, maybe 2011. Animal rights groups started getting vocal about his training techniques. PETA, and they don't mess around, called his methods abusive and outdated. They were specifically upset about his use of what he called corrections. Basically physical interventions like leash jerks or what he'd call a touch, but critics said looked more like hitting. And honestly, when you watch some of his episodes with today's eyes, knowing what we know about positive reinforcement training, some of it does look pretty harsh. Like there are moments where you're watching and thinking, is that really necessary? The whole dominance theory thing that his methods were based on, the idea that you need to be the alpha and that dogs are essentially wolves that need to be dominated, that's been pretty thoroughly debunked by modern animal behavior science. But the controversy really exploded in 2016, and this is where things got actually serious. There was this episode of his show, Cesar 9/11, Season 3, Episode 2, if you want to look it up, that featured a French bulldog mix named Simon, who had serious aggression issues.
Show Cesar 911 when a bulldog named Simon attacked a pot-bellied pig, biting into the pig's...
And you guys, what happened in that episode was really hard to watch. Cesar allowed this aggressive dog to attack multiple animals during what was supposed to be training. The worst part was when Simon attacked and severely injured a pig. Like, this wasn't just a little scuffle, the pig was actually hurt. And the whole thing was filmed and aired on television. The backlash was immediate and intense. Animal cruelty complaints started flooding in, and in March 2016, Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies and animal control officers showed up at Cesar's training facility in Santa Clarita to investigate. This was real, not internet drama, not Twitter beef, but actual law enforcement investigating potential animal abuse. And honestly, watching that footage of Simon and the pig, it's pretty obvious that something went very wrong. Even if you support Cesar's methods in general, that specific incident crossed a line for a lot of people. The fact that he put other animals in danger to try to rehabilitate an aggressive dog and then aired it on TV like it was good training, that was a serious miscalculation. The investigation was thorough, and while Cesar was ultimately cleared of criminal charges, the damage to his reputation was significant. The animal training community, which had already been skeptical of his methods, pretty much turned against him entirely. Professional dog trainers started speaking out more vocally about why his approach was problematic. But the legal troubles weren't the worst of what Cesar was dealing with during this period. In 2010, he went through what can only be described as a complete personal breakdown. His beloved dog Daddy, who was basically his co-star and the calm, balanced dog he always used as an example, died. Then his wife Illusion filed for divorce after 16 years of marriage. And you guys, this is the part of the story that really shows you how much pressure this man was under. Cesar attempted suicide. He's been open about this, talking about how he overdosed on pills because he felt like his whole world was falling apart. The man who helped millions of families with their dogs couldn't figure out how to handle his own life falling apart. The divorce was brutal and very public. Illusion got half of everything, which was a lot because by this point Cesar was worth tens of millions of dollars. The whole thing played out in the media, and you could see how much it was affecting him. This was around the time when The Dog Whisperer was ending, so he was dealing with his show being canceled, his marriage ending, his dog dying, and all these animal rights controversies at the same time. But here's what's actually kind of remarkable about Cesar's story. He didn't just disappear. A lot of celebrities would have just taken their money and retired to some beach somewhere. Instead, he went to therapy, got help for his mental health issues, and slowly started trying to rebuild his career and his reputation. In 2014, he came back with a new show called Cesar 911, which, ironically, is the show that featured the pig incident that got him in trouble. But before that controversy, the show was actually doing pretty well. He was trying to address some of the criticisms of his methods, being a little gentler, explaining his techniques more clearly. He also started incorporating more modern training concepts into his approach. He still talks about calm, assertive energy, but he's added more emphasis on positive reinforcement and less on the dominant stuff that got him in trouble before. The thing about Cesar is that he genuinely seems to care about dogs and their relationship with humans.
Cesar Milan has become famous as the Dog Whisperer, the man who can tame the most untrainable dogs, but now he's being...
Even his biggest critics usually admit that his heart is in the right place, even if they disagree with his methods. And honestly, when you look at some of the dogs he's worked with over the years, dogs that were going to be euthanized because they were too aggressive or traumatized, he has helped save lives. In recent years, he's been trying to modernize his brand. He's got a new clothing line called Instinctual. He's doing live touring shows, and he's been more active on social media. His Instagram is actually pretty wholesome. Lots of motivational posts about leadership and personal growth, videos of him working with dogs, and pictures of his current pack. He also remarried in 2016 to a woman named Jahira Dar, and they seem happy together. His sons from his first marriage are grown up now. One of them, Calvin, even starred in a kids show that Cesar created called Mutt and Stuff on Nickelodeon. But the internet being what it is, Cesar can't escape controversy completely. Every few months, some old episode from The Dog Whisperer resurfaces and goes viral, usually with people either defending his methods or absolutely destroying him in the comments. The debates about his training techniques are still ongoing in dog training communities. What's interesting is how his reputation has evolved differently in different places. In some parts of the internet, especially among older dog owners who watch The Dog Whisperer religiously, he's still seen as this brilliant dog expert who can solve any problem. But in more progressive dog training circles, his name is basically mud. Mention Cesar Millan in a positive way in certain Facebook groups and you'll get absolutely roasted. The fake jail footage that's been circulating recently is just the latest example of how his polarizing reputation makes him a target for clickbait content. Someone creates a dramatic thumbnail with Cesar looking sad, adds some emotional music and a title about shocking footage. And suddenly thousands of people are sharing it thinking it's real. And honestly, this kind of fake content is getting more and more sophisticated. The videos look professional. They use real footage of Cesar from interviews and mix it with generic jail or courtroom footage. They'll include just enough real information about his past controversies to make the fake parts seem believable. But if you actually look for credible sources, like actual news articles from legitimate publications, court records, or official statements, there's nothing. Cesar has never been arrested, never been sentenced to prison, and definitely hasn't made any emotional confessions from jail. What's actually happening is that he's continuing to work, continuing to train dogs, and continuing to try to rehabilitate his public image after the controversies of the past. His facility in Santa Clarita is still operating, he's still doing his live shows, and he's still posting regularly on social media. The most recent legitimate news about Cesar was actually positive. In March 2025, he launched a new line of pet products in partnership with XL Brands. He was at the Global Pet Expo promoting the line, doing interviews, and generally looking like a guy who's successfully rebuilt his career, not someone facing legal troubles. But the fake jail story spreads so quickly because people want to believe it. Some of his critics want to see him face consequences for the animal welfare issues from his past. Some of his fans want to feel sympathy for him and support him through another crisis. And some people just love drama and don't really care whether it's real or not. What bothers me about all this fake content is that it takes attention away from the real, legitimate discussions we should be having about animal welfare and training methods. Instead of talking about the actual scientific evidence about what works best for dogs, we're all arguing about whether some celebrity trainer is in jail or not. And honestly, Cesar's story is interesting enough without needing to make stuff up. This is a guy who immigrated with nothing, built a massive media empire, faced serious controversies and personal struggles, lost everything, and then slowly climbed back. That's a real human story with real complexity and real consequences. The animal training community is still divided about his legacy. Some people credit him with getting millions of people interested in dog training and behavior, which ultimately led to more dogs getting help. Others argue that his methods were harmful and set back progressive training techniques by years. Both things can be true at the same time. Cesar probably did help a lot of dogs and families over the years, and his techniques probably were outdated and sometimes harmful. People are complicated, and their impact on the world is usually mixed, rather than completely good or completely bad. What I find most interesting about the current fake jail drama is how it shows how quickly misinformation can spread when it confirms what people already want to believe. The people sharing these videos aren't necessarily trying to spread lies. They genuinely think they're sharing real news about someone they have strong feelings about. This is exactly why it's so important to check sources before sharing stuff online. Like, if someone claims a celebrity has been arrested or sentenced to prison, that would be major news covered by every entertainment outlet. If you can't find it on legitimate news sites, it's probably fake. And look, I get why people are drawn to these stories. There's something compelling about seeing powerful people face consequences, especially when they've been controversial in the past. But the truth is usually more complicated and more interesting than the simplified drama that clickbait creators are selling us. So what's the real tea on Cesar Millan in 2025? He's a 55-year-old guy who's still working with dogs, still dealing with criticism about his methods, still trying to balance his past controversies with his current business. He's not in jail, he's not facing criminal charges, and he's definitely not making tearful confessions on camera. Is his story over? Probably not. Controversial figures like Cesar tend to stay in the public eye for better or worse. He'll probably continue evolving his methods, continue facing criticism, and continue trying to maintain his relevance in a world that's moved on from the dog whisperer. The most important thing we can learn from all this fake footage drama is to be more careful about what we believe and share online. Just because something confirms our existing opinions about someone doesn't make it true. And just because a video looks professional doesn't mean it's legitimate. Instead of falling for fake drama, we should focus on the real issues, like what training methods actually work best for dogs, how to help shelter animals find homes, and how to create better relationships between pets and their families. Those are the conversations that actually matter, not whatever clickbait nonsense is trending this week. So next time you see a dramatic video claiming some celebrity has been arrested or sentenced or whatever, take a second to check if it's actually being reported by real news sources. Because chances are, if it sounds too dramatic to be true, it probably is. And honestly, real life is usually way more interesting than the fake drama anyway. Cesar's actual story, immigration, success, controversy, personal breakdown, recovery, and reinvention is way more compelling than any fake jail footage could ever be. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Have you fallen for any of these fake celebrity arrest videos? Do you think Cesar's methods were actually harmful to dogs? Or do you think the criticism has been unfair? I'm genuinely curious about your thoughts on both the fake news aspect and the real animal training debates. And if you want to see more content about separating fact from fiction and celebrity drama, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because honestly, there's so much fake content out there right now, we could probably do a whole series just debunking celebrity arrest hoaxes alone.